everyone, and welcome back to the Racing Mentors Sponsorship Podcast. I'm here with Toby today. Hi, how are you doing, Toby?
I'm really good, Jess. Really good. I've been enjoying watching British motorsport the last couple of weekends with the back-to-back Silverstone and all the British touring car stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. How about you?
Yeah, good. It's so nice that motorsport is back, isn't it? Like, I feel I'm out of... I still think it's March. Do you still feel like it's March?
Yeah, I've got this weird reset, start the season, but we're August now.
Yeah,
So it's really
my
weird.
brain is really struggling with that.
I know, but I must admit, although it's gutting I'm not out there racing, I did really enjoy last weekend, sat on the sofa. Just, I didn't know where to watch. I had various different screens up, different streams. I had the touring cars, the Grand Prix on, but it was so enjoyable just watching all the action unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've missed this. I'm still yet to get to a racetrack though, so I'm not sure how I feel about that, whether that's, something that I'll do soon or whether I'll just keep putting it off. I keep getting invited to stuff as like crew or part of a team, and I keep saying no because I'm technically not and I don't feel comfortable with that.
That's fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair enough. I
so
think I'm
we'll
off
see.
to Dunnington real soon with the team, so I'm looking forward to
Nice.
working with them. But yeah, it still does feel a little bit odd, but let's hope that all soon disappears and we can get fans back at the track properly and we can all be there enjoying the spectacle of motorsport.
Yeah,
But shall we
absolutely.
get in with our fun facts? Yes, it seems that the audience are enjoying our fun facts. So
Yeah.
I'll let you kick off the first one.
Okay. So the fact about Toby for the day, and those of you who watch his YouTube videos will know this, Toby can do many accents, but Scottish is the best.
we'll keep them for another podcast, maybe.
Okay.
On the note of motorsport and podiums, champagne and all that kind of stuff. Well, Jess has recently learned to open a bottle of champagne without actually panicking. So I think the next podium, Jess, I might give you the bottle of champagne to give it a go.
Literally learned in March, and only because I was stuck in Spain with no one else to do it for me.
Brilliant. We'll make that a race highlight soon.
Yeah. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how to feel more comfortable on camera. So whether that's like an interview that you're doing, or your own video content. But Toby, I'm kind of interested in your journey doing this. You do a lot of great YouTube videos and Instagram stories and that kind of thing. But have you always been this confident and this kind of comfortable on camera, or has that been a process?
Firstly, thank you, Jess. I think that's a really nice compliment that you feel that way. I still actually feel very nervous in front of camera. Perhaps it doesn't come across quite so easily now, but yeah, as a self-development, I've come a long way in terms of being in front of camera. I remember my very first interview, which actually was with you, Jess, at Snetterton back in May last year, I think it was. And I was so nervous, I was worried about getting tongue-tied. Would I go red? Because that's kind of what I normally do when I get embarrassed. And it went reasonably well. It was actually okay. I mean, you said it went all right, and I think there was lots of ums and ahs, and I still and ah a lot. But yeah, I've kind of worked hard in terms of just practicing being in front of camera, and it's got me to a place now where I feel loads more comfortable. I can be more myself, and I think that's been quite an important part because I've always wanted to kind of put my personality in front of camera, but was always nervous to. And I guess I almost have lost the care that what people think of me. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I just think, okay, I'm me. I'll be myself on camera. Practice makes perfect, and then here I am now on a podcast and feeling confident in everything I'm up to. So yeah, it's been a cool journey. But you're a bit of an expert yourself, Jess. So how was your kind of early days on camera to where you're at now?
So my early days on camera were probably about 8 to 10 years ago, maybe not even that long. But I was just ranting about cars on the internet, and weirdly, considering I'm actually quite an anxious person, it never bothered me. It never made me nervous until I started doing television. So I was okay shooting my own stuff, and I was a bit awkward maybe, but I was comfortable on camera, and I was happy to do many takes, and I didn't get any nerves. But then when I started doing TV, because it was my project, I kind of had that control. So I was quite comfortable knowing that, this is what I wanted to do. But then as my TV show kind of took off a bit and there were other people coming in with ideas, I kind of got a bit more nervous. But actually I worked with Darren Cook, who many of you may know, Scruffy Bear Pictures. We did part of this TV show called Road Trip together at Snetterton, and he gave me some incredible advice, just in like relaxing a bit, not moving my hands so much, which is like I talk with my hands a lot, but I think it's a sign of me being nervous. And he really, really kind of helped me, and he kind of nurtured me literally just for one day, and I learned so much just from that one shoot. So I would say a lot of my learning came from Darren in that respect. But then, you know, as I've kind of started doing racing mental stuff and then doing live TV and all of that kind of thing, it just kind of it comes so naturally now, and that is absolutely down to practice. I think because of this false confidence that I used to have, that is now absolutely real confidence. It's just kind of evolved from there. But I think the more I did it, the easier it got. And now, you know, if the BBC ring me and go, hey, do you want to come on live TV tomorrow? I'd be like, yep, see you tomorrow. Like, I don't think about it. It's just another kind of part of my day to day.
Yeah, and I think practice is quite a luxury for drivers that are in the off season at home, not sure when to post. Practice making videos actually is a really beneficial thing. I think the point that I've just taken from that, Jess, and something that I've put into play with my own actions with video, is that when there's no pressure, when there's no live TV, there's no one saying it's got to be out now, you can literally record yourself at home, do a small piece, look at it and go, okay, I could have said this better, I could have done that differently, and just keep practicing. And before you know it, you can do a video without any more than just one take, just get it done and it's sorted. I remember back from my very first YouTube video that I created, which was actually not that long ago now, probably about 9 or 10 weeks ago, and the amount of takes that I had. And if you skip to the end of the video, you'll probably see some of the fun outtakes, because I tend to do some fun acting like an idiot when I'm in that position. But compared to now, my YouTube recordings got way more refined. It's quicker to edit, and I'm much more comfortable and feel more confident in putting my personality out there. And that's purely down to practice.
Yeah.
I've not read books about it. I've not studied how someone can be good in front of camera. I have literally just practiced. And so when it comes to live TV now, of which I've not had experience in live TV yet, but I'd like to think that I'd be able to just jump on and be like, yeah, I've got this, like, I'm not even worried. But I think if I went back maybe 6 months ago, the thought of being on live TV, I would have literally been so petrified that I'm not sure I'd have got all my words out in the way that I wanted them to. So yeah, practice is such an important part. But let's talk about interviews, Jess, and it's a really big part of being a racing driver is being good at interviews, because you're usually hyped up with adrenaline when you're asked to be interviewed about the race or an event that's happened at the track. And let's talk about how you can kind of compose yourself so that you can deliver a concise and good interview to your audience.
Yeah, so there's two things that I see drivers do in an interview. Is they just try and act really calm to the point where they come across as wooden, or they're so hyped up that they make no sense. So you need to find a good balance between these two things. And I know that's not always easy, especially if you've had, you know, a really exciting race, and usually you have. So I would say just take a deep breath, because it'll stop you waffling. So before you go, I know it's not always easy, because sometimes it is literally microphone in your face, go do an interview, but try and take a deep breath just to get kind of your heart rate down and focus on, you know, the bigger picture rather than everything that's going on in your head. But also kind of hold on to that excitement of the race, because I feel like people try and calm themselves down way too much because they think that's what they're supposed to do. I don't know why, but I think that they think that. When actually you do want some of the energy. And this is actually, I think people that get interviewed straight after races are generally okay, because that excitement is usually enough to stop you being nervous. But it's when it kind of you're interviewed later on that I find that people struggle, because then they're able to think about what they're saying and they overthink things. And it's really, obviously, you know, don't overthink it, but, you know, how do you do that? So first off, just relax. And again, just deep breaths. Like that's the biggest thing, is just kind of like center yourself, take a moment, deep breath, and then kind of focus. But also, like, if it has been a bit of time since your race, or you're getting ready for a race, or you're in between things, don't just kind of answer questions with no emotion. Don't just say the right things, what everyone expects you to say. Actually get, if you're excited about the race, get excited. If you're really happy that, you've got fans and family and sponsors there, show it. You can smile, you can show emotion in that way, and that's absolutely fine. But if you struggle with this, go into your mind. I almost said mind palace, but I know not everyone has that. Go into your mind palace and just kind of think about some really great races that you had, just to get a bit of that energy back, because that energy makes you seem more dynamic and interesting rather than wooden.
I agree.
You can practice this. So when I teach media training, like when I hang out with racing drivers to try and get them to be a bit better on camera, I literally interview them like I'm a journalist, which I am. So I ask them, all sorts of different questions. I ask them hard questions, easy questions, stuff that they're not expecting, plus all the usual stuff that, you see everywhere. And then we watch it back and I get them to critique it. And then we do it again with different questions, and then again and again and again, until we have, a video. So it's kind of about being able to see yourself, because then you can realize how wooden you look or how nervous you look. And you can go, oh, actually, I waffled there when I didn't need to. So even if, in terms of practice, even if you film yourself and you're never going to use it anywhere, it's still great practice. You don't have to use everything that you film. And this is why I think practicing with Instagram stories is really good, because it can be a throwaway thing that you just put on your story if you want to, but you don't have to use it. And it's just easy. There's no setup or anything where you can start to get nervous about what you're going to say on camera.
Yeah, and it just makes that so much more easier when you then have to deal with a live situation,
Mm.
because you are then more composed. You know how to act in front of the camera,
Mm.
and you're by being comfortable, more of your own natural energy and personality comes across, and that's what viewers want to see. They don't want to see this wooden kind of yes, no, I did
Mm.
this, I did that. They want to see that personality, don't they? And yeah, that's a really important part of it.
Mm. When you've done interviews, have you had a certain process of how you compose yourself?
Yeah, so I think my very first podium interview I absolutely ruined. So I learned very quickly. Just a little story. So I was on the podium at Donington for my very first podium, and I was super, super emotional because the podium meant more than just some silverware. It was the fact that I kind of battled fertility, and that's, the podium was for more than just the trophy. And I got interviewed. I was so overwhelmed with the fact that I got this trophy, and I completely ruined this interview. I did not know what to say. So I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect with this. But the next set of interviews after that, I actually did what you kind of said, Jess. You kind of gave me some tips, and which we've just shared. And I slowed things down. I took some breaths. And when I got asked a question, rather than just dive straight in with an answer, a very short moment to think what you're going to say might seem quite long in your head, but actually in real terms, it doesn't. Because I remember watching a mobile video footage back of my interview on the podium after that, and it was absolutely fine, but in my head I was like, oh my god, that pause felt like an eternity. So I think
Mm.
as time's gone on, by just slowing myself down and just kind of relaxing and taking a breath and just taking a moment to think about what I'm going to say, has made me sound so much more professional. But at the same time, I've still managed to get my personality out there and actually just be myself.
Mm.
So yeah, I've been there where I've made mistakes, and
We
I've
all have.
that's it. That's all part of learning, right? And I'm not afraid by that. I'm not afraid to learn and chuck myself in there and give it a go, because again, I come back to it. Practice makes perfect. Once you've got these kind of tools in your cabinet, go out and practice them. Before you know it, you're quite comfortable, and it just feels like quite a natural thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like there are any really clear do's and don'ts that you have for yourself now when you're ready to go on camera, be it for a vlog or at the track?
Plenty of do's. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, be myself. Try and show, because I'm quite a happy, smiley person. So try and show some of that, and bring my energy to the table. Because I think I remember I watched it back not that long ago, actually. One of my first ever videos I made that I didn't share on social media. I watched it back and I was like, oh my god, that's not me. That's not me at all. So yeah, for sure, bring my personality to it is the major do. Don'ts, specifically if you're on live camera, on TV, obviously don't swear. That's a really obvious one. But have you got any sort of simple do's and don'ts tips to Jess?
So relax and breathe are my two really big ones. So like in terms of relaxing, again, that how you relax is kind of up to you. Like uh, people that practice meditation tend to be able to relax quicker than others.
That's true.
So if you know like the techniques for, you know, how to relax your body and mind, it's easier to do it in this kind of like what is essentially a high stress situation. So I would recommend everyone and anyone meditates anyway, but it can be really good for this kind of thing.
Mm.
I would also say don't worry about pausing or umming and ahhing. It's fine, it's natural speech. It's just one of those things that we all do, and just because you're aware of it doesn't mean anyone else is. And I actually, Toby, after we did that very first video, which was the case study after 6 weeks to success, you said, oh, did I do lots of ums and ahs? I'm like, I don't know, I've watched it back and it was great. And like, if you do watch it, yeah, you do, but it's just normal casual conversational speech, which is what we want in videos. We
Yeah.
don't want anyone to sound like they're giving a TED talk. That's just not what, you know, interviews are. They're supposed to be spur of the moment. You're talking to a person, and just because you happen to be talking to lots of other people, be it on television or over tannoys or, you know, on your YouTube channel, you're still having a conversation with a journalist or to your camera if you're doing a vlog in the first instance. So it's fine to sound chatty.
It's a conversation at the end of the day, isn't it? That's the
Yeah.
really, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't really think I have any don'ts other than the obvious ones. Like you just said, don't swear if it's live TV, but if it's your YouTube channel and that's your brand, go ahead. I almost swore there. That's not on brand. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to relax. It makes such a difference, and just like you said, Toby, just taking your time and going slow makes it so much easier. People
Yeah.
that speak slowly, even if you are saying and ah, they're typically not nervous. So even if you are nervous, if you speak slowly, it won't come across.
Yeah, something I found tricky actually. I remember I did a BBC News piece on behalf of one of my sponsors and the charity last year, and prior to this piece going out and actually being recorded, I had a really really strict brief of things I could and couldn't say, how it was going to pan out. Kind of, they didn't give me any preparation in terms of what questions I would receive, but this is what you can't say if certain things go ahead. And I had some, typically the journalist that was recording the piece interviewing me typically ask some quite difficult topics that if I just went and babbled on with an answer, I probably could have put the sponsor in a not particularly good place in the media. So I had to be
Mm,
really careful and mindful of what I was saying. And that was tough. That was really, really tough, because once it's recorded on camera, they could have put that on BBC News, and then my sponsor really wouldn't have been happy with me.
mm,
It turns out that the fact that I just calmed down, thought about my answers before I gave my answer, and because it wasn't live TV, it was a recorded piece, I could think as long as I needed to. The piece came out fantastic, and some of the tricky questions that I got asked, the PR team that was working with me was just like, I'm blown away. I'm so happy you said this answer rather than how it could have gone down. So I think when you're being interviewed, but being mindful of also how you're representing your sponsors and the brand that keep you on track, because you're also your brand's important, but at the same time you're representing the companies that support you to be at the racetrack, and that's essentially what keeps you there as a paid driver. I remember the time where there was quite a bad accident at a race weekend, and I won't say exactly what it was all about, but the interview afterwards was really cringeworthy. And I remember sitting there thinking, crikey, if I was the sponsors to this person, I'm not sure I'd be happy with the way this has gone. And of course, it was a difficult situation for the driver, because obviously he was taken out of the race, and it was really dramatic, and it was awful for him. But a little bit of composure could have given a completely different outcome. And there's some really great people out there that can remain calm. I look at someone like Jake Hill, Colin Turkington, absolute professionals in the media front, that even if they have the most worst race, if they get taken out or if something really bad happens to them, they can still remain very calm, collected, and professional on camera. And I think that's a really, really nice quality to have.
yeah, totally agree. And again, that's practice. So even if you're a naturally like, you know, highly strung, nervous person, you can find that composure when you need to, as long as you kind of practice those relaxation techniques, but also like how you come across on camera as well.
Yeah, completely. And just on this note of practice for the Racing Mentor community group, um, I'd like to just start something up right now. It's just come to my head. Why don't all of the people that listen to this that are part of our community, and for those that aren't, please join our Facebook group, um, create a video and send it into our group. I think you can send it in on the community. If
Yeah.
not, do it privately to Jess. But send us a short video in, just a little interview, perhaps a little bio about yourself, just something simple. And just use it as a little practice tool. We can then look at it. We can see how you guys are getting on and perhaps share some tips among the group, and I think together we can all grow, and I think that'd be a cool thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even for me, this is helpful because, with lockdown and stuff, I'm not doing as much video content, and you do kind of fall out of practice a bit. So even for me, that'll be good. That's a great idea.
Sounds good.
And so for anyone that is kind of like super nervous about this, that's fine. Honestly, don't worry. Most people are nervous on camera for, the first time or in their early on camera careers. But I did a video that you can find on the Racing Mentor YouTube channel, that's all about basic media skills. So we go into this stuff in a little bit more detail. So go check that out if you need like a bit more kind of advice beyond what Toby and I are saying here. And yeah, definitely post your little introduction videos in the group. So it'd be actually so good to put some faces and some voices to names, because there's so many people in the group now. I've met a few of you at racetracks and stuff, but certainly not all of you, and certainly not those of you who aren't based in the UK. So that'd be really cool to hear from you.
Definitely, and it just shows the importance of video, really, because there's lots of racing drivers I follow, and I don't know what they really look like or sound like, and I want to know. And some of my favorite drivers that I follow is because they do videos all the time. I get to actually see that person, and it's almost like I'm chatting to them. So there's a really nice point to take there, that the quicker you can get used to video, the quicker you can start putting content out there, your engagement will go up and the impressions will go up on your videos, and everyone that's following you will feel more engaged in your story. And video is amazing for that reason, and far better than pictures and text.
And I feel like we mentioned this in the building your brand episode.
We did.
Um, so like if you're doing a video and maybe a potential sponsor sees that, they're going to feel way more connected to you before you've even spoken to them. And that's really important because you've managed to create a rapport with someone just from doing some video content, which means when you do get to speak to them and you do kind of put across your ideas and your pitch, they're already going to be that step closer to saying yes.
Absolutely, and I can give you an absolute example of that. So I'm talking to a sponsor at the moment who actually has seen quite a lot of my YouTube videos, and some of my social media posts that I've been putting up on my Instagram feed, and I didn't have to do an introduction when I actually met them on a Zoom call. They were like, "Hey, Tobes, how are you?" And I was like, "Hey, how's things going?" And I had a rapport with this person, even though this was the first time I was ever talking to them in a video conference, and I remember we got halfway through the conversation. He was like, "Oh my god, it's like I really know you," and it was quite funny because we got talking about the YouTube channel, and he was like, "I've watched your videos. I think they're brilliant. Like, I love the way you interact and stuff." And he was like, "I know who you are," and we haven't had to waste half an hour getting to know each other. We were just straight in talking business, and it just shows the power of that. I mean, it's been amazing, and I've noticed a lot lately with a lot of kind of new people in my network and people that I'm talking to. There's far less introductions now than I used to do,
Mm.
because they know my story, they've seen my videos, they've seen me on social media, they know who I am and how I sound and what I look like and my tone of voice and stuff. And yeah, it's really powerful. It's been quite amazing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I know some drivers struggle with is answering interview questions. And this does kind of come back to how to compose yourself. But I want to give kind of one tip on this. And I don't know what you've got to say about this, Toby, but my biggest tip for anyone who's answering interview questions is when you're done answering the questions, stop talking. And that might sound really, really obvious, but I know so many drivers that will waffle on until someone stops them.
Mm-hmm.
You can trust whoever is interviewing you to fill the silence, like to ask the next question when you stop talking. So you don't need to, I've done media training for some drivers who have been, I think it comes from nerves. So they're just trying to fill the silence because they know if there's dead air, they're going to look stupid, but that just won't happen. Journalists are trained to ask questions at the right points and ask the right questions. So, if you're asked about the race, say how the race went, and then stop. Let the journalist ask what your prep was like or what you're doing next or whatever. And then when you've answered that, stop. Rather than, if you're asked how the race went, don't talk about the race and then talk about your last race and then talk about your prep and then talk about something else, because you'll lose your train of thought. It does come across as waffly and it can often be quite boring.
Yeah.
So just literally stopping, or at least stopping for a breath to see if the journalist does hop in, because they will if they want you to stop, is like the biggest piece of advice I can give for answering interview questions.
Yeah, because journalists want you to talk. That's why they're asking you
Mm,
the questions. You're on camera; they want you to talk for sure. But that silence and that stop is a really interesting thing, because I've practiced this as I've been interviewed over the course of the season, and yeah, just finishing your point, stopping. Someone else has to fill that silence, which has to be the person
yeah,
asking you questions. And actually, the more questions you get thrown, the better the interview feels like it goes, because they then explore what they want to know, what they want their audience to know. But rather than just waffling about that one question they've asked, before you know it, the interview's going to be over, because they're like, oh, this guy's just waffling, let's just move on.
yeah.
If you're really concise, you'll get a lot more out of it.
I, as a journalist, would much rather have like Kimi Räikkönen-esque, like short answers
He's
than
extreme though.
yeah, he is extreme, than someone who waffles. Not because I'm not interested in someone who waffles, but it's very, very hard and awkward to interrupt someone when you want to ask your next question.
Yeah,
So
and you
like
only
I've
got
had, go on, sorry.
sorry, yeah, and you've only got a few minutes. They haven't got long to sit and chat. They've
Exactly.
got a few minutes to get the point across and ask questions.
Yeah, and it's really, really hard to cut someone who has waffled on. Like I interviewed a Formula One driver. I won't say when. I interviewed a Formula One driver, and he waffled on and on and on, and I had to keep stopping him. I had to go, oh, hang on a sec, because he'd said something that I wanted to ask a follow-up question on. He just did not give me a chance. It was really frustrating, and when I came to editing that piece, it just didn't work. I had to chop and change it, which was really tough. And especially when they want, like, the people who had employed me wanted me to cut it right down, it was impossible. So everyone does it. Like, it's not a bad thing to talk like that, but it does make journalists' lives so much easier. And there are drivers that I would always prefer to interview, because they know when to pause, they give interesting answers, they don't waffle, they're relaxed, they enjoy it, I enjoy it, and it's just so much easier that way. And you only kind of get to that level with practice and with the right kind of guidance and the right journalists to speak to.
Absolutely, yeah. You can take these little tips away, but ultimately practice makes perfect. And I'm sure everyone in this audience is going to be awesome at doing that in their future interviews. So thanks for all those little tips, Jess. I think there's a lot to take from today. But shall we move on to our driver of the week? Someone that's equally as good in the media, but has learned a lot along the way in terms of where he started from till now.
Yeah, so this week's driver of the week is Lewis Gayler. He is racing in the mini challenge, the JCWs, and he, for someone who's quite young, and I don't mean that in a very old person kind of way, but he's 16, 17. And I've known him and his family since he was about 14, just after he'd come out of karting and was going into bigger things. And he's gone from being relatively nervous on camera through lack of experience to one of the most charming, charismatic people I have ever met, both in person and on camera. So first off, like in the paddock, watching him take people around his car and explain what he's doing is great. He's so good at that. That also, that kind of charm and poise, I guess it is, comes across on camera as well. So he's actually quite a relevant driver of the week for today's theme. So congratulations, Lewis, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, congratulations, Lewis. I've not actually met Lewis, but I've seen a lot of his social media. He's very on brand. He's got a really cool image, and quite, I echo your point, Jess. He's really great in front of camera, and I think understanding from where he's come from speaking to you, Jess, to where he's at now,
Yeah.
is a really good point to make from the rest of this podcast. Is that practice makes perfect. We all start somewhere, and look where we can end up if we keep at it.
Yeah, and I'm sure he won't mind me telling you that, we worked together on some media training where I did film him over and over again as I interviewed him. And I think that really helped in those kind of early years while he was getting ready for, something as quite high profile as like the JCWs. So if anyone wants to follow him, he's Lewis Racing 77 on Instagram, and I think similar on other channels, but you can just do a search for him, Lewis Gaylor. He's also in the group if you want to say hello to him in there. But yeah, congratulations, Lewis, and proud to know you.
Yeah, go check him out. He's got the coolest looking mini as well on that grid, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so next week we are going to be, I guess, shifting focus slightly. Like next week's topic kind of almost seems like it doesn't make sense in the scope of talking about sponsorship, but it will make sense. So we're going to talk about side hustles. So like small jobs or businesses and things that you guys can set up to fund your racing career, because the reason we're here is because we want money to go racing. Some people want to do that because they want to work with sponsors, other people do it for the love of the sport. Whatever your reason, it's about funding your racing career, and sponsorship's not the only way. So I think it's fair that we talk about that, but I just want to invite questions ahead of that episode, because I think it's important that if we are talking about something new, to know what people want to know about it. So please do email me, jess@racingmentor.com, or post in the sponsorship community on Facebook any questions that you have about alternative ways to fund your racing career, be that through a side hustle or another business or anything like that. And we'll endeavour to answer those questions when we come to that episode next week.
Yeah, look forward to it. It sounds like it's going to be a good episode, Jess.
Yeah, as a prolific user of side hustles, successful and unsuccessful, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, there's lots to learn for me, I think, in this one. I've not got many side hustles, but I'm always inspired with just how creative you are in this field. So I look forward to chatting to you next week about that.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you everyone as always for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. Cheers.